So right, I'm going to show you how to set up a conventional feeder first, and then I'll show you how to set up a method feeder. A conventional feeder, there's 1,000 ways to do it, but basically if you start with a little gadget like this, it's just what they call a feeder bead, and it goes on with, it's got a little swivel and a clip on it, and you run it through the line so it runs up and down the line. Okay, so leave that on the line, and then you'll need an ordinary swivel, which you just tie on any which way you like. I tend to do like I think they call this a half blood knot. Back through there, wet it and put it tight. I tend to use that knot. You can do a loop one, anything you fancy. And they've got little gadgets that go over the end of there, and little sleeves that go over there, all sorts of things. But that's basically what it is. And then that bead will come down and it will stop against that swivel. Okay. And then you will put your hook length on there. So we'll take a ready-made hook length and open up. Probably said this before, with ready-made hook lengths, always make sure you put your finger through the hole before you undo it, because if you don't do that, you'll end up with a knot in it. And then you'll take the loop, push the loop through the end of the swivel, and then the hook back through the loop, put it all tight, and there's your hook lengths on. Okay, now there's a million ones different. This is a window feeder, which seems to be flavour of the month at the moment. It's got quite a heavy weight on it. This one will cost miles. If you wanted to use this one, you just undo the clip and you clip that on like that. That runs up and down the line. You put your bait in there. You can put the hook on the top of it on your bait and push it on with a little bit of ground bait if you like, or just leave it running free. You've got other ones. These are designed not to come off too easily. You've got other ones. These ones, they'll go into orbit. These ones, you want to go a long way. This was probably one of the original type of swim feeders. We used to call them Drenham feeders years ago. Brilliant little feeders these were, and basically you just put a few maggots in there. They're great little maggot feeders. In fact, you've got some here that you've got a screw on the top. You can put maggots in there and feed them. They've all got the same little hooks on. You've got some that are flat. I know I've got a flat one here. No, I haven't got a flat one. Some got flat so they don't roll across the bottom. There's other ones here that, oh, that's a type of method feeder where you tuck the ground bait up inside it. Mate, they all do the same job. They get the feed up around the hook. So let's start with a maggot feeder, and I'm going to fish with this one for a little while, and then we'll set up the method feeder. This one is a typical old-fashioned maggot feeder, and just to get a bite, this will always get you a bite. So what I'm going to do is, before I start, I'm going to put a maggot on a hook. Put a maggot on the hook. Shown you before, through that little skin at the bottom of the maggot, you're hooking through there like that, and it'll wriggle on the hook. Okay, put that one on first, and then we're going to put a few maggots inside the feeder. So when we cast out, these maggots could crawl out onto the bottom, attract a few fish around it, and hopefully one will take your hook bait. Have to be a bit quick, because otherwise all the maggots would have crawled out before you've cast. So we're going to cast out as we were before. Cast out like that, line back, that's it. Now we're going to sit down, we're just going to reel back until the rod begins to bend a little bit, and we'll wait for a bite. Great, so now we had a little go on the maggot feeder, and now I'm going to change this over and just put a open end feeder on. So that's a little maggot feeder, and hopefully I've got an open end feeder here, so it is. Here's a little open end feeder. It's the sort of thing we would use here at Redbridge Lakes, and similar thing, just goes back onto that little clip. There it goes. So that slides up and down the line, and again, you fish an open end feeder, you can put different baits inside it. So you can let's put a maggot on. I'll put a couple on this time, see if we can get a better fish. And then what you can do with the open end feeder is you can use a little bit of ground bait. This is micro pellet. Use a little bit of ground bait and just squeeze it in there gently, and that's going to lay on the bottom. It's going to come out the end, and then your bait's going to be hanging around somewhere around it, and hopefully they'll pick your bait up and swim off it and give you a bite. You've got the option again with an open end feeder. You can put a little bit of feed in, put a few maggots or worm or corn or whatever in there, and put another bit of feed on the back of it, and chuck that out, and we'll cast that out this time. It can be another string to your bow. Out we go. That's it. Put it down on the rest. Again, don't drag the feeder along the bottom, because you can either drag it into a bit of silt, or you'll drag your hook bait away from your ground bait. So just tighten it up so you've got a little tiny bit of a bend in the rod. What can happen, sometimes you'll get a bite, and if the fish goes on the opposite direction, it can actually dislodge the feeder. So instead of the rod coming round and bending round, it can come back and you can get what you call like a drop back bite, which is like a slack line bite. That happens more often on rivers where the flow picks the feeder up and drop round, but it can happen on lakes as well, especially if you're in a situation, you're on a lake where on the far bank you've got the shelf is dropping away, so the feeder will actually drop down the shelf when it's dislodged by the fish. But all the same, no matter what sort of bite you get, don't go into the habit of striking like crazy. These hooks you get nowadays, they're really, really sharp, and most bites, the fish have actually already hooked themselves, so it's just a matter of picking it up and reeling the fish in, just keeping a tight line on it. So we're going to give that a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to change it over and I'm going to put a method feeder on and see if we can catch a better fish at Redbridge Lakes. Right, now, so we're going to get onto another feeder here, and then this is probably the most successful feeder that we use over here at Redbridge Lakes, and it's called the Little Method Feeder. This is a medium size Preston method feeder. I'm not saying Prestons are the best, but I use them, they're pretty good. And you put the line through that little bit there, like that, and then through that bit there, like that, and out the other end, and stick that over there. Okay, they're quite nice because it sort of stops any tangling, that little thing at the end. Okay, and then you get one of these little inline quick change beads, and you pull that little bit out of the end. They're a bit fiddly, these things, but they're worth having, so they really do work well. Put the line through that end there, and then you've got to tie this bit on, so you push it through there, and you've got to do like an overhand knot, and then get the knot to tie tight on the end there, so give yourself plenty of line to do your loop with. Turn it over, and keep that nice and tight there. That's it. I think that's on. Now we're going to cut that little waste bit off there, and then this bit will push over the knot, and you've just got that little bit there that we can clip our hook length on. So you get a hook length, and there you go. That's the one I want. Again, I'm promoting Prestons again, but these are good. These little banded hair rigs, they're already at the right length. Nice little hook with a band on the end, and we're going to hook it over Oh, it'd be good if you had your eyes were working. It's all right for youngsters, they can see what they're doing. God. What have I done here? Right, that hooks over the end of there. Hooks in your finger as well. And you push the whole lot back over there nice and tidy. Okay, so now your feeder runs down, and then this bit actually plugs inside the feeder. Now the good thing with this is that when the fish takes the bait, it won't pull this out immediately. It will hit the feeder, and that helps hook the fish. But then if this gets jammed in a weed or something, then the whole thing pulls through. So you've still got a running line, which is quite safe for the fish. So then you've got the band, and you can put one or two different sorts of baits on here. You can either put it through a piece of corn and pull the band through a piece of corn and put a piece of corn on it, or you can use over here a little gadget we call a wafter. These come in all different shapes, sizes and colours. I'm going to put a yellow one on. I like the yellow ones. Represent a bit of corn. And these wafters, they actually float in the water. Okay. And there's different types of banding tools on the market. This is a Guru one, it's quite good. Open that up. And put the band on there. That's it. So now that this little gadget, now when that's in the water, because this is a floating bait, the way the hook will just sort of counterbalance it a little bit, and it will just lay on the bottom, and anything that moves past it will come off the bottom and back on again. And this is why they call it a wafter. It wafts around. So really, really, really good bait. I know they look stupid, but they work. So what you want to do now is get yourself one of these little tools, I don't know what they call it, compressing tool or something or other. Put a bit of, oh, hold on. Put your bait in first. Put your bait in first. Put a bit of micro on the top of it. I use micro. You can use different types of ground bait, but micro seems to work quite well. Squash it on nice and tight, and then push it out. And there you go. You've got a nice little cake with your wafter sitting on top of it. So that's going to go sit on the bottom, and then when the fish come round, they start eating that micro pellet, you've got your brightly coloured bait right in the middle of it, and works really, really well. In fact, I'd say it's probably the most successful way of catching fish here on a feeder. Up we go, really up to a couple of 2 or 3 foot. Hold it with your finger. Cast it out to the clip. Rod back so you've got a nice bit of slack line. So now that feeder's going to hit the bottom, and we don't want to move it. So we don't want to move it along the bottom. So I'm just going to reel that back slowly and try and just get it so it just puts a tiny bit of bend in the rod. Tiniest bit of bend. And that's all you need to do. You'll find that sometimes it'll put a bit of bend on it, you get a little bit more slack, and you just might have to tighten it up a little tiny bit, especially on a windy day like it is today. It's a bit breezy. I'm just going to tighten it up very, very slowly with my reel handle. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit, and there you go. I'm just putting a little tiny bend in the rod tip. What we don't want to do is be moving that feeder across the bottom. We want it tight, but we don't want it moving across the bottom. And that's just about right. Now, once you've got it done once, that's it. But just very, 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 very gently. So important that you don't move that feeder off the bottom. You want that sitting on the bottom with that bait right in the middle, and then you just wait for that rod to wrap round. And say, when it wraps round, don't get excited and give it a great big strike, because you're likely to break off. So just when it wraps round, just lift the rod up, see what you got on, and gently start reeling it in. And that's the way to fish the method feeder. Oh, there you go. It's only a little tiny fish. Amazing how this has taken one of these 5mm wafters. Look at that. It's a roach. Absolutely incredible. Especially when you saw the bite that gave us. Look, a little roach wants to eat the wafter. Amazing. Good thing about these wafters, they don't come off. You can use the same one all day. You can get a net full of fish on the same bait. So, good, these little tools. Make it a nice, pretty job. Look at that. I could eat that myself. Cast it out in the same spot. Look for that marker on the far bank. There you go. Cast it over, back up, bosh. Back onto the rest. Click over the bail arm. Reel it up nice and slowly so we don't move that feeder on the bottom. Just reel it up until just a tiny bit at a time. Sometimes you're doing this and you'll get a bite before you've actually even tightened it up. Amazing. Not even a little line bite at the moment. What might have been just a little fish tugging at the bait, but more likely just a fish bumping into the line where it's trying to eat the micro pellets. So avoid. There's a bite. Let me just lift into that one. There we go. And that's it. So avoid those little bites and just lift in and reel them nice and gently. Keep them away from the lily pads. That's a slightly better skimmer. That's a slightly better skimmer. There it goes. The yellow wafter. Amazing. Who needs maggots when you can use a wafter? Now, if you like what we do, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, that'll please me intensely. Thank you very much.